welcome to Oklahoma City, and welcome to Ilfocolor 400. I've been sort of curious about this film. Everything I've seen talks about its unrefined grain and low saturation. So what I want to do is compare it to something else with not that great of grain and low saturation. Kodak UltraMax 400, so same ISO. And I will be putting the Ilfocolor in my Olympus OM2, and I'll also be using this for light metering. And then the Kodak is going to go into my OM1. I think this will be a pretty good side-by-side comparison. I'm going to shoot every shot twice, and we will see the results and see if it's really worth the extra cost and the vintage tone of the Ilfocolor, or if you're better off just buying cheap film and using that, because that is also a vintage tone if you consider vintage kind of shitty. So without further ado, let's begin. So as I struggle to load the film into these two rolls, or into these two cameras with one hand, I will go ahead and tell you this was definitely a tedious process, but it was worth it. I got to spend the day roaming around my favorite city and seeing some of the sights and doing some stuff that's actually pretty fun. I'm including the Ira's Tire Shop images within this video so that you can see this really was tedious, but it was worth it so that I could have a decent A/B comparison. The Kodak just brings out so much more color, and it's just a little bit more refined. I don't know why anybody would want this over film. But as I continued around, I ended up in Yukon at one point, and got to have a little bit of fun. So here is a chapel, and you can see its sort of ominous presence through the Ilford, because it just removes all definition. And then whenever you look at the grain, you can see it's just kind of unrefined. Let's take a look at it compared to the Kodak. I mean, yeah, you can see it brings out so much more of the shadows. I don't know, it looks a lot more inviting. It doesn't blow out the bright spots quite as much. It's just, yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a theme. So here is the Gold Dome, one of Oklahoma City's coolest landmarks. It is, a creation in the style of Buckminster Fuller, but it wasn't actually one of his buildings. It just the closest thing we have here to one of his buildings, which is cool to have. But I mean, it just all looks totally flat and boring on the Ilford. And whenever you go over to the Kodak, it just has so much more of that rich gold texture from the anodized surface. And the sky is bluer, the shade underneath on the ground level. You can actually see a lot more detail of the building. At this point, I need to apologize for the lack of a tooth on the bottom row. I'm waiting on a bridge. It should be here in a couple weeks, and I left my retainer in the car. So unfortunately, that's just gonna have to be distracting for you, as it is for me. This one is just a shot walking back to my car at the edge of Scissortail Park. Beautiful place, lots of native grasses. I really enjoy it there. But you can see all the highlights are gone, all the lowlights are gone on the Ilford, and on the Kodak, the highlights are still gone, but it's a little bit better. This next shot was just a street corner with a beautiful tree. And again, not that beautiful in the Ilford, much prettier in the Kodak. Here's a cool old Jeep that I found. I like CJ7s. I really want a CJ5, just as a side note. I think they're a more sort of traditional Jeep looking body with the curve around the front. It looks like the old CJ2As and the military Jeeps and all that, but that's not the purpose of this video. As you can see, the Jeep is gray and the sides, or the background is gray and the sky is gray. Whereas with the Kodak, the Jeep is blue and the background is green and the highlights are still kind of blown out, but whatever. And then we can have a look at some of the fun that I had here at home. With the dogs out on the deck, having a grand old time. And I love the composition of the Ilford photograph, but I like the grain and I like the lighting and I like the colors more of this Kodak one. Let's see, here's the cat. I totally missed focused on these. I had to shoot it at 1/60th of a second because the room was pretty dark. So they're a little bit blurry, but I needed something that was low light so that we could compare them evenly. Even still, there's a lot more definition in the cat's hair. As you move away from the direct light of the window, you can see she's doing her favorite activity, which is messing with the blinds. And then here is my friend, and his blue sweater is gray with the Ilford, and it is blue with the Kodak. So I guess in summary, my thoughts on Ilfocolor: if you are looking for a vintage film, go with something like UltraMax. I mean, it's a good film. It's cheaper than the Ilford. The grain looks way better. In the 60s, there was good film. We're not talking about the turn of the century and glass plates and all that kind of thing. I mean, they had color and they were able to create beautiful things. I mean, I think Bellevue was around at that point, maybe. I don't know. But in any event, if you want a vintage look, just slightly underexpose some halfway decent film and you'll be there. But if by vintage you mean you want your photographs to look like a kid's birthday party in the 90s, then yeah, go ahead and get the Ilfocolor, spend the extra money to get the worst product. So with that, thanks for watching my rant, and I will see you soon.